having a fight at the end to hold on. Winning tonight despite 24 turnovers and 34 San Antonio points off of those turnovers. Golden State did make 19 threes in this game, and they needed all of it when it was going to be said and done here down the stretch. 19 to 24 from the free throw line, and the Warriors do get the win. A win I think they had to have. Again, no such thing as a must win in November, but I do think for this Warriors team, the way things had been trending after the 6-2 start, and the Warriors really struggling, losing 7 of the last 8. Now you can make it 7 of the last 9, but they've won 2 of 3, and this also ends just a brutal 2-week stretch in terms of games coming either every other day or with a back-to-back mixed in. So the Warriors now get their first real break of the season, 17 games in, approaching that quarter pole of the season, and they'll be off for the whole weekend, which is rare, tomorrow and Sunday, and then Monday before they go to Sacramento and take on the Kings in what will be a game of consequence in the NBA in-season tournament. If you're following that, if you're not following it, tonight kept the Warriors alive with the opportunity to win the Western Conference Group C portion of advancement to the round of 8. Basically, there's 3 groups in each conference. The winner of each group moves on to the round of 8. That takes care of 6 of the 8 teams, and then there's a wild card in each conference, and that's how you get to 8. And so the Warriors won tonight to improve to 2-1 in the Group C play. Sacramento won tonight at Minnesota, so the Kings have a 3-0 record with 1 game to play in the group portion. Minnesota, that was their first loss. So Minnesota and the Warriors are now 2-1, with the Kings leading at 3-0. And then you've got San Antonio, who didn't win a game in the group stage, dropping their 11th in a row tonight. So the Warriors, if they can win in Sacramento, given all of their struggles of late, if they can win in Sacramento and Oklahoma City beats Minnesota on Tuesday night, it all comes down to Tuesday, then the Warriors win that group portion of the schedule, and that means they'll play either the 4th or the 5th. Location to be determined. You don't quite go to Vegas in the round of 8. You got to win in that round to get to Vegas in the final 4 of the play-in tournament. But the Warriors have a shot at it should Oklahoma City beat Minnesota on Tuesday and the Warriors win outright in Sacramento. Now, if the Warriors win and Minnesota wins, then things get tricky as far as point differential and all that. The Warriors would have to win by at least 13 points over the Kings to win the group. That via Anthony Slater on the point differential. I didn't do that math myself. As much as I'm into playoff scenarios and everything that goes along with it at the end of the season, I'm not really running the math on the point differential as far as who advances in the group play. But I'm going to take Anthony's word for it. He's pretty sharp with that kind of thing, and we'll just report it and credit him on the point differential portion of that. If Sacramento wins, they win the group but with the Warriors and the Timberwolves and this, because they would have beaten everybody at that point. 4-0, they would have been an automatic advancer. So that will impact the schedule and those things in the first week of December. But in that sense, it was a must-win if the Warriors wanted to try to have a shot at continuing should they get another win in Sacramento on Tuesday. 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. Warriors wrap up here on 95.7. The game as Golden State wins it 118-112. Just some general thoughts on this one, and if you want to react, we can have a conversation. A lot to get into here as the Warriors led 4-0 and then trailed 11-4 and 21-12 in the first quarter. 8-2 run for Golden State, and the Warriors trailed at the end of the first quarter 35-32, and then the Warriors tried to go big in the second quarter, at least to the extent that Golden State can go big with a little bit of Jonathan Kuminga playing the 3 in that second quarter. But the Spurs, again, after the lead had been cut down, pushed it back up to 9, and the Warriors were facing kind of an uphill climb until the end of the half when Golden State went on a 22-9 run. So they went from down 9 to up 4 at the break, 59-55. And the Warriors, impactful game from Dario Saric off the bench for Golden State as he goes for 20 in this one, really helping the Warriors out. And Klay Thompson ends up with 15, and there was a stretch right before halftime. Klay Thompson looked like he kicked a chair after missing a couple of shots, took a couple of bad ones there. Not the best night for Klay Thompson. He did score 15 points, but 3 of 11 shooting, and Klay really wearing the frustration on the nights and in the stretches where he doesn't make shots consistently. And, yeah, kicked a chair on the Warriors bench, then picked up what I couldn't tell at first was it towels or a shooting shirt, but I guess it was towels, and he just chucked him down the baseline in anger after he had been subbed out for Gary Payton II to close the half. Now, I don't think it had anything to do with the sub. I think it was more Klay just taking a couple of bad shots with some bad results, and the Warriors being locked in a battle at that point in the second quarter. So, again, I don't think there was anything personal about he was mad he got taken out for defense or anything like that at the end of the half, but the general frustration was visible and noteworthy. And, yeah, just all eyes on Klay at this point. Couple of real good games shooting the basketball the last couple, but Klay Thompson showing some frustration there. Warriors go in up 5 at the break, and then they come out in the third quarter and a 16-0 run for the Warriors in the third after they had fallen behind by a couple. So it ended up a 16-0 run. Warriors went from down 2 to up 14. It was 84-70. But San Antonio then finished with a 15-4 run. So the Warriors never really could shake the Spurs in this game. And back and forth it would go in the fourth, with the Warriors starting the fourth quarter with an 8-0 run to push it back to 13. But then every time the Warriors would push it up, San Antonio would have a little mini comeback, and a lot of that was led by some Warrior mistakes, either bad shots, but really more so turnovers in this game. The 24 that I mentioned, 34 points off those turnovers for San Antonio, and that was a huge impact. Spurs also hit the Warriors in terms of points in the paint to hang around in this game, 48-30. The points in the paint differential in favor of San Antonio. But tonight was another night where for just the second time, the Warriors were outscored in terms of bench points, but some key bench points, the 20 from Saric, and how about 11 fourth quarter points from Jonathan Kuminga, who came into the fourth quarter with just 1. Kuminga, a big part of that beginning of the fourth quarter run that helped the Warriors push the lead out before things would get close again. But yeah, Kuminga, 11 of his 12 coming in the fourth quarter, and it was in times where the Warriors really needed buckets and needed a boost. As it was Kuminga and Saric. It was Klay Thompson with a couple of assists on Jonathan Kuminga bucket. Chris Paul and Kuminga hit back-to-back threes to begin the fourth quarter. And all of a sudden, the Warriors, it looked like they were going to maybe turn this thing into a blowout. And it felt like the Warriors might do that at different points. But every time the Warriors, again, would push it out, the Spurs would then have a 9-0 run after an Andrew Wiggins that was capped by an Andrew Wiggins turnover. Warriors were up by 15, and then they ended up just in a 4-point game that turned into a 3-point game again in the closing seconds. But the Warriors do enough to prevail, 118 to 112. And at this point, we're not rating victories. I think for Golden State, they need wins any way they possibly can get them right now. And for the Warriors to be able to earn a win and just get to this little mini break in the schedule, get Draymond Green back into the equation, and start to identify what the rotation is going to look like here for this next stretch, which is going to see the Warriors have a good mix of games against Western Conference opponents, and then you're going to get the in-season tournament games if the Warriors do make the round of 8, or the makeup games that are going to come from them failing to make the round of 8. But it's going to be a little bit more of a spread-out schedule. The 3 days off, then the Warriors play in Sacramento. They come back, they play the Clippers. They go to play the Clippers. And then they could end up getting another 3-day break that first week of December, depending upon whether or not they qualify for that round of 8, the knockout portion of the play-in tournament. So the Warriors are going to have, we do know, 3 games. Actually could be 2 games that week, assuming that the Warriors are not in the in-season tournament round of 8, if you will, the knockout portion. So there's going to be practice time for the Warriors to iron some things out, and there's going to be a little bit of rest time for what is now a more veteran-laden club that I think just needs a little bit of a mini reset. I mean, you give them credit for getting to this point and winning the 2 of the 3 after the rough homestand. To get to the 2 of 3 this week, to get to within 1 of 500, I think they'd feel a lot better if they had won the game against Oklahoma City that they let slip away down the stretch going back to last weekend. But, not to say you're thrilled with 8 and 9, because I cannot look at 8 and 9 by any way, shape, or form and say, oh, the Warriors should be happy about that. You should be happy about it in comparison to it's not 7 and 10 or worse, but let's be honest. The first 17 games of the season have been a disappointment, especially after the 6 and 2 start. But now it's about just stopping the bleeding, I think, for the Warriors more than anything. And now trying to get healthy, lick their wounds, get a little bit of a breather, refresh, reinvigorate, come back. A couple of days of practice, likely on Sunday and Monday after the Warriors take tomorrow off. And then they can get into more of a routine with some low-level travel for the most part. Again, Sacramento and L.A., there's some Phoenix trip again. They go back and play the Clippers for a second time. And then there's going to be a lot of home games surrounding the Christmas holiday with the quick trips to Portland and Denver. And again, still over the next 6 weeks or so, the Warriors are not going to have any lengthy trips to really anywhere in the Midwest or the East, barring maybe one game in the in-season tournament, depending upon how things shake out or where their makeup game is if they don't advance past the group stage. But other than that, we're really talking about one significant possible trip for just one game and then coming back at that point. So I feel like the Warriors at 8 and 9, disappointing without a doubt. I mean, I don't think you can sugarcoat it at all and say, oh, this thing, everything's fine. I mean, the Warriors are not playing good basketball. Whether they're struggling to defend, they're struggling to put teams away. Suddenly they're struggling with turnovers more recently than they had been at different points of the season. But now is an opportunity to almost say, okay, it's go time. It's go time moving forward. And everybody's getting there's no more excuses. Wiggins has shown some signs of life in the last week. Klay Thompson has shown some signs of life in the last week, although, again, tonight, not one of his better games. And it looked like Klay Thompson wasn't going to finish the game until Andrew Wiggins had a pretty bad turnover with about 2 minutes to go. And then Steve Kerr did sub Klay Thompson into the game for Andrew Wiggins with 1:44 to go. And Klay did wind up finishing the game, but it looked like this was going to be the first time that Klay was not part of the closing lineup, because there were 5 players that were all collectively playing better than him. But then Coach Kerr did make the decision to go back to Klay there for the final couple of minutes. So 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570, as it is Warriors wrap up here on 95.7 The Game with John Dickinson at Chase Center, where the Warriors were victorious over the San Antonio Spurs. Also want to let everybody know, bit of a truncated edition tonight for Warriors wrap-up, but we are going to have Warriors This Week for you tomorrow from 9 a.m. until noon. Join me and Dan Devone as we'll have that for you. We'll get into tonight's game in a little bit more depth, just where the Warriors stand after 17 games on this young season, and really whether or not it's go time for this team. I think that's a pretty obvious answer right now with where they sit, and we'll get to our standings update coming up here momentarily. But there's a lot of good teams in the Western Conference, and you need to win, and you should be happy if you're a Warrior fan with the win in this game tonight. But the reality of the situation is they're just not playing quality enough basketball to consider themselves at this stage a playoff team, let alone a championship contending team. And the proof is in the play. on a night in, night out basis. Stephen Curry's playing at an extremely high level still, and everything else is kind of hit or miss. Gary Payton II, Warriors welcomed him back in the game tonight. 4 points in 18 minutes. How about the block on Wembanyama? If that doesn't tell you everything about Gary Payton II, going up and blocking Victor Wembanyama's shot when Wemby's got him by, a foot and a half, I think, in terms of size, and Payton went up and got it, really lit the crowd up in Chase Center tonight, got everybody going, got everybody hyped in a moment where the Warriors were struggling. It was in the midst of that run where the Warriors went from down 9 to close the half. It was that 22-9. Warriors had cut it to 46-41 at the point of the block. So having Gary Payton II back, I do think is important. I know Steve Kerr talked in his post-game press conference about how he would use Payton and loving the fact that he fits so well and plays so well with Stephen Curry. So look for more of Gary Payton II to be out there with Stephen Curry in different instances. And also, surprise, surprise, Steve Kerr did say he was thinking about the point differential component to the in-season tournament rules in the fourth quarter when the Warriors were up by 12, and even said to the team in a timeout to try and keep your foot on the gas and push this thing out, because point differential, if there are ties, is the tiebreaker in this group stage. Now, he jokingly said, well, it didn't work, and obviously it didn't, as the lead trickled all the way down. And the Warriors, though, fortunate at this point and will take any win that they can get. All right, a couple other things to get to here on Warriors wrap-up tonight on 95.7 The Game. Let's go ahead and roll with our Extending the Three-Point Line three-pointer of the night, brought to you by West Coast Men's Health. Yeah, so Tim Roy on the call there, and that three-pointer is your Extending the Three-Point Line three-pointer of the game, brought to you by West Coast Men's Health, successfully treating men for ED and chronic pain. You can visit westcoastmenshealth.com for more details on that. And Gary Payton II, I guess 5 players, and appreciate the nod from the 510, is kind of digging through this in the little break here between Tim and his wrap-up and starting Warriors wrap-up here on 95.7 The Game. And so it was, I guess, 5 players have blocked Wembanyama this year. Payton, the smallest of the 5 to do it. And, that was, I think, the play of the night for the Warriors, to be sure. With Wembanyama, who's still trying to find his way, 22 points for him, 1 of 6 from 3, much more effective inside the three-point line tonight for San Antonio. But again, this is just a game the Warriors had to get. It's what I like to call a zero upside game. It's one of those games where if you are threatening to be in trouble in it, and the Warriors sure as hell were threatening to be in trouble with it, then it's just there's just no upside to it. You win, and if you win and it doesn't, and you don't win by a lot, and it doesn't look pretty, which the Warriors did neither of those things. They didn't win by a lot, and it wasn't pretty. So when you do that, there's just zero upside. You need the win, and it's better than the alternative. Could you imagine the conversations we'd be having if the Warriors had not won this game against San Antonio, because the Spurs had come in losing 10 in a row, now make it 11, and sit at 3-13 in the Western Conference. And so this is a team that everybody had been beaten throughout the league by an average of 13.4 points per game coming into this game. And now you look at San Antonio, it's the worst record in the Western Conference. It's the 3rd worst record in the NBA. Only Washington and Detroit are worse. And so, better than the alternative if you're the Warriors that you didn't lose this game. But at the same time, what are the real positives that you take away from the individual play in this game, and there isn't much. It's Kuminga's fourth quarter. Add this to the list of games for Jonathan Kuminga where he, where he had a bad first half and was able to bounce back and have a more impactful second half. I think that's 4 or 5 times this year where Kuminga's been able to do that, so you give him credit. Dario Saric, huge. I know Steve Kerr in his post-game press conference was talking about Dario Saric and what a steal he's been and how he's probably going to wind up being somebody that gets a nice contract next season, albeit likely elsewhere. But Saric has helped the Warriors offensively. His skill set has really helped the Warriors. 20 points tonight, 7 boards, 4 assists, a couple of steals even for Saric in the game tonight. His defense can tend to be a little rough when he's playing the center spot against certain matchups, but the Warriors signed him because they want him to be a stretch big, and they have tried to play him a little bit more at the 4 lately, but I think where he is going to have to play to be effective is at the 5, and tonight the Warriors needed every bit of his 20 points. Other things that stand out, 6 assists for Klay Thompson in this game. So I do think that Klay is making an effort to keep the ball moving, but the frustration is still there. I mean, it's just shots that Klay is used to making that aren't going in. It's shots, and a couple of forces here or there. But again, the 6 assists show that Klay has been more of a willing passer, and he hit Kuminga he hit Chris Paul for a 3 beginning of the fourth quarter, hit Kuminga for a dunk in transition as well. And so I think that's a small bright spot in this one for the Warriors. And then, of course, the biggest bright spot of them all is Stephen Curry. 35 minutes, 35 points. Only downside for Steph is all the turnovers, and everybody for the Warriors who played tonight had at least 1 turnover, and you had Steph leading the way, as best players often do, in terms of turnovers with 6 turnovers. And that was the reason that this game was close down the stretch, and it looked like the Warriors were going to be in control for a good chunk of late third quarter and into that fourth quarter. But the turnovers, and just careless ones, just awful ones. I mean, just mindless turnovers for Golden State that allowed San Antonio to jump out when they did have the lead, but also put San Antonio in that position where they had the ability to make repeated comebacks in this game, despite the Warriors being in control for a lot of those pivot points, as I mentioned, in the fourth quarter. So I think those are the bright spots. Moses Moody getting the start was a bright spot in particular for the Warriors in the first half. He wound up only playing 17 minutes, and Steve Kerr shaking it up, knowing, I believe, that Chris Paul is going to be going back to the bench when this team plays in Sacramento, and Draymond Green comes back off of the suspension. Draymond's been working out with the team, been going through shoot-around and basically doing everything he can right up until the mark 2 hours before game time, where he has to leave the building and not be a part of any of the action. So the Warriors feel like Draymond will be able to hit the ground running in Sacramento on Tuesday when the Warriors take on the Kings for the 3rd time here in this young season. Let's get to our hardest worker of the game, brought to you by Alameda County Sheriff's Office, who works hard to serve the community. Are you looking for a career in law enforcement? Learn more about job opportunities at joinacso.com. That's joinacso.com for more details there. And your hardest worker for the Warriors tonight, I'm going with GP2 in his return, just for the block on Wembanyama. Sterling, do we have the block? Do we have the highlight of the block? I would love to hear the highlight of Gary Payton II blocking Victor Wembanyama's shot. He gets hardest worker of the game for his return, and he gets the nod just because I wanted an excuse to roll that. So Sterling, if we've got it, let's let it rip. Yeah, Chase was lit at that point. People were fired up. It was just a hell of a play as Peyton came flying in to block Wembanyama's shot in the midst of that Warriors run as they were in the process of trying to flip the game after being down by as many as 10 to take that 4-point lead at halftime. So Gary Payton II coming back, playing 18 minutes, impactful, going to be playing more with Steph Curry, but the block on Wembanyama gets him the hardest worker of the game. Brought to you by the Alameda County Sheriff's Office, who works hard to serve the community. Are you looking for a career in law enforcement? If you are, you can learn more about job opportunities at joinacso.com. That's joinacso.com for more details. All right, let's get a couple of notes here, and then we will call it a night and reconvene tomorrow morning, bright and early, right here on 95.7 The Game. We talked about Stephen Curry, his 8th 30-point game for Steph Curry this season. And Steph just out of this world, continuing to lead the way for the Warriors, who are continuing to look for that secondary scoring on a night-in, night-out basis. We talked about the season-high 6 assists for Klay Thompson to go with 15 points, 3 boards, and a steal. Dario Saric, the 20-point game, his third 20-plus point game of the season. And how about this? Dario Saric, all 3 of his 20-point games have come in the in-season tournament, in the group play games. He had 20 against OKC back on November 3rd. He had 20 for the Warriors, 20-plus in the game against Minnesota, and the night that all hell broke loose. And then tonight he goes for 20. So Dario Saric among the in-season tournament group play MVPs across the league with that level of production. He knows when to raise his game. Dario Saric with another 20-plus point game. Draymond Green missed his 5th game. As we talked about, the Warriors ended up 2-3. They're 3-5 without Draymond in the lineup, as he missed 3 games due to injury as well. And the Warriors outscored by San Antonio's bench. Just the second time in 17 games that the Warriors have not won the battle of the benches. And the Warriors improved to 3-6 at home and 8-9 overall, 2 in a row at home for the Warriors. We talked about all the turnovers. The Warriors also had 35 assists, which was one off their season high at OKC back on November the 3rd. 5th time this year the Warriors have had 30 or more assists. They're 4-1 in those games, despite the 35 assist to 24 turnover ratio for Golden State. And a quick look at the standings. We talked about Sacramento, who went into Minnesota, handed the Timberwolves their lone home loss of the early going this season. So the Timberwolves are leading the conference with OKC at 11-4, then Dallas 10-5, Phoenix 10-6, Denver 10-6, Rockets beating Denver to improve to 8-6. You got Sacramento at 9-6. They're currently 6th in the Western Conference, and the Warriors at 8-9 are 10th in the Western Conference, just behind the Los Angeles Lakers, who at 9-7 are currently sitting in 9th. All right, that'll do it for us tonight as the Warriors get the win. I want to thank Sterling Bennett in our San Francisco studios. Sterling, along with everybody else who's been cutting up the highlights and everything here, we appreciate the help on Warriors Wrap Up as always. And it is led by Sterling Bennett, our hardest worker. Also had a hosting shift earlier today on 95.7 The Game. It is also going to be coming right back in to the San Francisco studios tomorrow to put together the Warriors This Week show with Dan Devone and myself. So appreciate the help. I'm John Dickinson. It has been a pleasure all throughout this season, through these first 17 games of the season. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow, 9 a.m. until noon. Warriors This Week, JD and Devone here on 95.7 The Game. And then Warriors Live coming up as the Warriors and the Kings will play in Sacramento. That's 6 o'clock for Warriors Live on Tuesday as Draymond Green returns, in-season tournament implications. And we will have that for you right here at 95.7 The Game on Tuesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Warriors, they get the win over the Spurs, 118-112, and you heard it all right here on 95.7 The Game.
Dell's Black Friday event is their biggest sale of the year. Shop limited time deals on laptops like the stylish, innovative XPS 13, engineered to do it all on the Intel Evo platform. Plus, save big on ultra-sharp monitors and top brand accessories. It's the perfect time to upgrade any home, business, or gaming setup powered by Intel Core processors. Shop now at Dell.com/deals to take advantage of huge savings and free shipping. Again, that's Dell.com.